So I'm going to say whatever you were surrounded by and whatever you were told that you were meant to eat, what if none of that was true and you got to choose what actually works for you and your body?
My house could be burning down and I'm still going to prioritize my training and my food over everything. And that's including my business. They're looking for something where you can drop weight like that. So it looks good that, this person lost this weight in this amount of time. Is that sustainable? Probably not. Did she learn something from it? Absolutely.
Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. So you are with me, your host, and I am in Australia still at the moment in Prigium Beach at my home, currently getting renovations and testing my allowance because of the noise factor and everything, just knowing that my house is going to be friggin' epic when it's all finished. So, and I'm joined today by, you know what, Krista, how do you say your last name?
Antonio.
Oh, Antonio, that's easy. Okay, so joined by Krista Antonio, who is based in Melbourne, but that is a very Greek name. Am I correct?
Correct.
Correct. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So that's what I love about you, Krista, is your enthusiasm. I think the first time I recall meeting you was at a class that Dr. Dane here had in Queensland. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'd met you briefly before, but it was like me fangirling, like Simone. Actually, it was in Melbourne.
During his ESB? Maybe.
Was that the start of last year? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, Dane had a class, Body Whispering, which is, pretty fitting for what we want to talk about today, because we want to talk about bodies. We want to talk about fitness. We want to talk about you and your journey to that, because that's what I'm interested in as well. So you are a fitness coach now. And well, how would you call yourself? Give me a little summary of how you would call yourself and what you're currently choosing.
Look, I'd like to say personal trainer, but I find that's not quite it. I guess you could say holistic health coach, because I'm a bit of an all-rounder. Yeah.
Krista.
That was Krista. That's Krista.
I remember somebody tried to explain me once and they were like, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. And Dane went, it's Simone. And I was like, that's perfect. It's like, it's just Simone. And I was like, yep. And that's you. You're just Krista. There you go. So
I like that.
Okay. So what got you into the health and fitness industry?
From a young age, I was teased for being too skinny. And I also always loved muscle on the female body. I love the look of it, the athletic look, just always loved it. So I started from a place of not liking my body and changing it because I decided that there was something wrong with it. But then also on the other side of that, I actually really enjoyed, the whole process of building muscle and feeling strong in the gym. And and it was like that for a good 3-4 years of just training, doing my own thing, or with a coach, but not as a qualified trainer as yet. And then I thought, well, if I can feel this good, what I thought was feeling good, then I could make other people like enjoy it too. So, it's been 10 years now. Yeah. I started that journey and that changed a lot.
So I remember actually one of the things is because we had an internship program a little while ago, which you actually joined, like you were one of the, I think the last ones, you were the pop-in that came in. But I remember Liliana, who I work with, was really excited to talk to you and meet you, etc. And she was like, hey, can we add Krista? And I said to you, I asked you what you liked and what you enjoyed. You were so cute. You went, I enjoyed going to the gym. I was like, okay, that's gonna contribute to us. But it's funny because I guess it does contribute in some way. So I love that you were just so raw and honest and direct of like, I enjoy going to the gym. And I was like, okay. So there was many other things as well. So let me ask you then, with the fitness industry, so what are you currently doing? What is your business now?
So other than guiding people to either, change their body or lose body fat, along with doing that, I'm not going to say the word push because that's incorrect, but I really encourage my clients to have a different relationship with food and their bodies. So not changing their bodies from a place of, I hate this part of my body, so I need to change it, or I can't eat that because society have decided that it's not good for you, rather than getting them to experiment themselves, obviously with my guidance, not just like, hey, you're on your own. And seeing what sits well, and it changes, like like what you can eat maybe today might be different to what you can eat next week, let alone what you can eat in years down the track. So
yeah, I do think there's a lot of lies within the industry of, I mean, I was saying the other day, like, when I grew up, it's like the food group, like that, the pyramid that we had that we grew up with of what you're supposed to eat. And it was so heavy. I mean, I'm in my early 50s now. It was so heavy on dairy. And I remember I was joking with someone the other day who's about the same age as me. And we're like, no matter how many people have dairy, a dairy intolerance, the amount of dairy that we had to eat. And they would deliver the milk to school and it would sit on the side in this crate on the side of the fence. And then you'd have to drink it at little lunch, which is a couple of hours of milk sitting in the sun. And you would have your sandwich was, white tip top bread. My mother would put loads of butter on it, like just loads of butter on it. And then it's terrible. I don't even know if I want to admit it, but I will. My mother used to make me Spam sandwiches. And like the Spam, do you even know what Spam is?
yeah, it's like the fake ham meat stuff.
Really fake ham meat that you get in a tin, and it's butter, white tip top bread, and then the thick Spam. And I used a lot of the time, I used to throw it away, and I told her that I didn't like it years later, and she said, why didn't you tell me? I was like, I was too scared to tell you I didn't like my Spam sandwich, and all of this. So I remember my friend who was a diabetic, and she used to have this little lunchbox, and she had celery cut up and boiled eggs and all this stuff. And I always remember, I honestly remember thinking, I wish I was a diabetic so that I could have that as my lunch and not my Spam sandwich. So since then, I have definitely destroyed and uncreated that point of view. I am not asking to be a diabetic. I can just choose to eat boiled eggs and cucumber if I like, because I actually like that stuff. So, but I find that the eating habits of what you grow up with and what you're told you're meant to eat. And like we grew up with, meat, 3 veg. My mother used to cook steak. We'd get a T-bone steak, and she would cook it well done and put meat tenderizer on it so it was soft. And I'm like, why didn't you just cook it medium rare or something? And then boiled Brussels sprouts. Like, no wonder I hated Brussels sprouts. And then she'd say, what do you want for your vegetables? Which meant go get a tin out of the cupboard. So that was like, we had canned peas, canned carrots, and canned beans, and then we also had mashed potato. That was the Deb mashed potato that you put in boiled water and mix with lots of butter. It's so bad, but that's what I grew up with. That was the food I grew up with. Now, I will say, in my mother's defense, she did grow up from, during World War II when there was rations and all that stuff. So they were very used to living on canned goods. I really didn't know much about fresh, like all the choice that we have of fresh fruit and vegetables growing up. There was actually a Greek family that lived 3 doors up from us. And I remember I used to go to their house. They had bees and they had all these like tomatoes and cucumbers and everything growing in the backyard. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like our fruit was, you had a choice of a banana or an apple, and that was it. Like it wasn't this, and now it's like, God, what the choices you have. And you probably had that then too. I just didn't see it. I wasn't surrounded by it. So I'm going to say, whatever you were surrounded by and whatever you were told that you were meant to eat, what if none of that was true? and you got to choose what actually works for you and your body. So everything that brings up for you, and you go, oh yeah, but this, you can remember your grandmother telling you something that's correct, or your father or your mother or something like that. Destroy and uncreate that point of view. And everything that is times a gazillion, right? Non good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, provids, basis, creations, and beyond. There is the clearing statement has changed even again. So I love it. So there's I actually might even do a little short podcast on what the clearing statement is soon. Because it's amazing, and it's fucking up my life in a big way. It's creating so much chaos in my life. I was telling Krista before we started recording, it was like yesterday I was cranky, I was frustrated. I thought I had a money problem. I had all this shit going on. I was like, I got my bars run, and I knew I needed to start looking at my life in a really different way. And I get that that's what you're empowering people to do too, is to look at their bodies in a different way and to be with their bodies in a different way. So let's talk about, because you do fitness and food, right? How important do you think it is for people to look at both of those together?
In my opinion, pretty important. Not everyone is willing to look at food straight away. And that's definitely something that I don't push. I've actually got a client that was like in one of her testimonials. She's like, one thing I loved about Christa is that when I started, she wasn't like pushing nutrition down my throat.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, you're right. I don't. I let you choose.
So I've seen one of your clients, because you have an app that you use. I know it's not your app, but it's an app that you use. And the whole idea is like counting the macros and the, all that sort of stuff. That's always done my head in, like completely and utterly. So I think I would be the person that you could work with on fitness, because I love working out. I don't have a problem with that. I love going to the gym. I love, like after this podcast, I'm going for a hike. And I love moving my body and all of that. But if you tell me what I can and cannot eat, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And counting stuff, I'm like, So if I was one of your worst clients, as with that goes, how do you start educating me, or that maybe there's a different choice?
Firstly, I don't ever tell my clients that they can't eat something. So for another example, I have a client who eats a lot of fast food. Mm-hmm. And what I've done is implement the fast food that she's eating within a total amount of calories rather than remove them completely. And as an addition, add in a little bit more fruit and veggies are the ones that she actually enjoys eating. That's like extreme case though. I don't have many clients that come to me and say, I eat fast food on a regular basis. I do have clients that don't discuss food with me at all. They quite possibly mentioned in the beginning protein, but unless the client's saying to me, I feel like I'm not getting stronger or my body's not changing, that's when I'm like, all right, are you ready to look at your food? Because, like they say, as much as a lot of these quotes are silly, the quote, you can't out-train a bad diet. I like the word use bad diet, but it's true. So it doesn't matter how much movement, how much exercise you do, if you're eating in a way that doesn't support your training, then it's going to be quite visible. But I just don't push for it. It's not for me to choose. Like for some people come to me because they've got mental health things going on, and for them it's their way of releasing endorphins and feeling good. It's like, if I can contribute and that's my contribution, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, because I would say I've done a lot of different eating things over the years. And gosh, if I think of when I was really like a lot younger, if I look at pictures of myself when I quote unquote used to think I was fat, and I look at pictures and I so wasn't, but in my head I was. But then I know I started to put on weight when I would do things like I would sneak eat. Like I would driving home from school, like in year 12, it was like an hour's drive home. And driving home from school, I would stop at KFC. And there was something about stopping at KFC and getting some chicken nuggets and not telling anybody that had this, it wasn't even about the food. It was just about this something is for me or something like that. It's funny. I've never ever spoken about that. Never, not from hiding it, just from never needing to. But as you're looking at the food thing, and then, I mean, oof, you know, my mother's cooking wasn't exactly the best, but that's what I grew up with. And you grew up with all of these things that I wouldn't choose now. I'm not saying living on canned vegetables is the thing that you shouldn't do. It's just not what I would choose now. I have explored, like I was a vegetarian for 8 years, mainly because I got really sick on chicken and I just couldn't eat meat for a while. And then I just stuck to it. And I always said that I would eat meat when my body asked for it. And after 8 years, I had this steak and it was the best friggin' steak in the world, and ate that, and it was great. And then at one stage, I remember doing keto for like 18 months and it really helped. I actually lost a chunk of weight when I did keto. But then my body was like, we're done. And then I noticed even I've done carnivore a few times just for a few days. Like it's like 3 or 5 days. And then my body's like, that's it, you know. Or I know one thing I'm really bad at is like a juice cleanse. My body's like, we need food with that juice. like I do make my own juice. I love it, but it's like, you're not just giving us juice. You're giving us something else besides that. And I will notice that I go through different phases. Like at the moment, I can sense my body, like feel my body desires more protein. I could literally do meat and fruit. And that's two things that I go to a lot. So if I did meat and fruit, and I'm not asking for your judgment of it, because I realize you're saying, hey, you have a choice, whatever. But if like that, like what would you say to that? Like if someone was eating that sort of that way?
How does your body feel? How do you feel when you're training? How's your energy throughout the day?
Yeah, see, I think that's got to do with a lot of other things in my food.
I know that's broad.
How's my schedule? How's your food? And how's your training? Because I think those three, like I was just telling Krista, I just canceled a whole bunch of things because I was like, my schedule is so full up until I leave to go to Italy. And this time last year I was in hospital, because I couldn't walk, and I had to stay home. Like my body was like, no, we're not actually moving. And just today, the last 2 days, I was like, okay, I need to start rearranging a few things. Like, and I know what I'm like. If I take my body and we go into nature, it starts to rejuvenate. So that's sort of, it's interesting.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But like, so I'd say, how's my schedule? My schedule would be tiring me out a little bit at the moment, is what I would say. But then,
look,
go for it.
I definitely don't have on my plate what you do. No pun intended there, because I'm talking about food. But I can honestly say I'm guilty of, my house could be burning down and I'm still going to prioritize my training and my food over everything. And that's including my business.
So what does it give you? Because the thing is, I see people resist it and I see people leap into it. Like I said to you, with the training, like I never, when I've got a PT session booked or something, I never wake up and go, oh, I've got to go, like at all. I'm like, yes, I get to go. And my PT, big shout out to Joelle. He's away at the moment. I was like, no, you don't get to leave. I'm the one who leaves. How dare you leave while I'm at home? But anyway, he's away. I'm getting over it. But he said to me the other day, he said, hey, Simone, he went, he said, I need to chat to you. And I was like, okay. And he went, you're really fit. And he said, I just want to tell you how amazing you are. He said, you know what? A lot of the 20 and 30-year-olds in here, he said, you would smash them. He was like, every time you train, he said, I've got stuff for you to do, but he said, I'm not the one pushing you. You push yourself every time. Like you just always reach further. And because he gave up training everybody in his gym except for me. He's the manager of the gym. And I was like, why did you keep me? And he said, Simone, you're such a pleasure to train because you don't just sort of go through the moves. You will be everything you can be. But I get so much joy out of it. Like,
nice.
I like that energy of it. But I will say the food thing, I have a resistance to leaning into something, and I'm not sure what that is. So what do you notice that people have a resistance to, or what? Turning into a semi-private session for me.
Oh, it's all right. Lucky me. What do you mean? Oh my God. Probably things that I've heard a lot over the years is I like food too much, so I couldn't do what you do. For one, you don't have to do what I do, and I don't have to do what you do. Like, you do what works for you, and I do what works for me. But what a lot of people don't understand is that you're not starving yourself, and you shouldn't be starving yourself. And if I do have a client that's come to me from like another coach and they are on very low calories, then we instantly change it, because that's, in my opinion, that's not living. And it's, unless you're jumping on stage and, you know, your calories need to be significantly low to reach a certain body fat, you don't need to starve yourself to, you know, to be healthier or to lose weight. It just, you don't need to put your body through that. It's really just including foods that you enjoy and like what you're trying to achieve in the gym. Like, for some people, they might just want to move. They're okay if their bodies don't change, or, you know, they're not getting stronger. They just want to move, and that's completely fine. So
I was with you at a friend's birthday lunch the other week, and we're having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours, and you were asking them what they ate, right? Because they were looking at becoming one of your clients, which I think they are. And you were asking them what they ate, and they sort of went through like what they ate. And it was interesting because you were sitting next to me and you went, I don't think you eat enough. And that is not something that most people hear. I don't think you eat enough. So can you talk about that, like the way you're saying this? Because the things that I hate that people go, oh, like coffee. I'm sorry. I love coffee. And I like coffee with 1 sugar and oat milk in the morning. And it's like, you can't take that away from me. You could take it away from me, but why would you? You know, the other thing that I like too, though, is I like having a glass of wine or a cocktail every now and then. I don't need to drink at all every day. In fact, I can go for weeks without drinking. But when I like to have a drink, I really enjoy it. I enjoy having a glass of wine. So that's not going to be, you know, when people go 3 months and no alcohol or something like that. That's not my gig. It's like, I enjoy it. So with the food thing, can you talk about the you're probably not eating enough? Because you made a comment that most people don't actually. Tell us more.
I remember that part of the conversation. So we end up expanding on that. And whilst this client eats, in my opinion, the quality of food is pretty good. It was getting to know what the goal actually was, because there's still a misunderstanding between weight loss and fat loss.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us more.
So there are people that are just happy to lose weight, even if it means losing muscle also. And then there's people on the other side that they prefer just to lose fat and hold on to as much muscle as they can. And in this instance, this particular client, when I explained that, they were actually like, oh, I actually don't want to lose muscle. I want to actually keep it. So it was a complete, like I could see that, like, what was going through the thought process. It was such a beautiful conversation. And it's like, oh, it's like, I can change this. He's, no, I don't want to change muscle. So, you know, what do I need to do? And I said to him, well, we need to get you to eat a little bit more, because it's easy to lose weight. You just starve, you know, you just cut a few meals out here and there. Beautiful. You've lost weight. That's not to say that it's, you know, going to be just fat. It's going to be a little bit of muscle and probably water as well. So not allowing your body to go into starvation, because when we're under eating, how can I say, our body requires a certain amount of food in order just to function in everyday life without physical activity.
Yeah.
And if we eat below that, in some instances, our body then puts on fat in order to, I guess, stay alive, or to so there's still a misunderstanding where people are not sure what the difference is between weight loss and fat loss. And look, there's no one to blame, but it's the way society has made it. It's like weight loss, but it's like, look carefully what words they're using, because they're saying weight loss, not fat loss. Like, a lot of your 12-week challenges, they really show you a way to have a different relationship with your food and your body. I've got a client that I was on a Zoom with this morning, and she actually pulled out of her 12-week challenge because she's like, it wasn't for me. And once we got through all the details of like the calories that she was on, and what they had told her she can't eat, she's like, it doesn't work for me. And I said, well, of course it doesn't. Your calories are that low. No wonder you don't have the energy, or you feel like you're missing out, or it's understandable. But they're not looking for something you can maintain. They're looking for something where you can drop weight like that, so it looks good that, this person lost this weight in this amount of time. Is that sustainable? Probably not. Did she learn something from it? Absolutely. That doesn't work for her.
Yeah. That's so true. And so, because I've got, you said a couple of things there too, because I actually have scales, which I know a lot of people you don't use scales nowadays, and that's fine. Like, again, it's your choice. But I do have scales, but they're really cool scales, because they tell you not only your weight, they tell you like the muscle mass, all that sort of stuff, which like your BMI, so the fat and etc. And that's what I get that sometimes when I work out, my weight goes up, but is it fat or is it muscle? So I would like to keep muscle, even like create more muscle, but lose fat, because I do get that the fat of my body is more than what I would like. But in my head, I do go, oh, this amount of kilos is what I would quote unquote like to lose. But as I say that, it's not necessarily, I don't want to lose all the muscle and all that sort of stuff. I know I have water retention. I work on that a lot, and traveling is not my best friend with that, but I try and do different things with that. I like, you mentioned something there with the starvation, like your body has this starvation level. So what do you see that people are not choosing to look at with their food intake that they should? Like, what's the number one thing that you'll notice? And I get it's different for everybody.
Without using the word structure, but I'm going to say the word structure. So, going through the day and having one meal, and the next day having three, or
Right.
binging all weekend, and then coming Monday and feeling like you guilty and you need to starve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
what do you
inconsistency, yeah.
So what do you get that creates for the body?
An imbalance of energy. Like when I think of that, I think of me being sad, then happy, then sad, then happy. That's what comes to me.
I like the way, if you're just listening to us, you can't actually see what Krista did, but if you want to, you can go check us out on YouTube, or on Spotify, you can see the video as well. Also, I'm going to take this moment to say, don't forget to subscribe, because then we'll send you all the show notes, etc. But I like the way you just did that, because your whole shoulders rounded down and you're like sad, happy, like your posture was better with happy, but it's true. And so I noticed for myself, like what I know is protein works for me with that. Like, even if I'm eating, a boiled egg, I'm going to say on the run. I know that's like the big no-no. You're not supposed to do that, but I do. Or eating things like that have something that's got like I just cooked a whole bunch of sweet potato last night in my air fryer, which I really love, with a whole lot of like garlic powder and salt and pepper, and it was yum. That's what I just ate before. I notice if I do that, like, and I tend to eat more throughout the day, and nighttime, I'm terrible at night. I'm not a good eater at night. I couldn't, like Europe, when they're like, hey, we're all going out for dinner, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, it's way past my bedtime. I'm not going out to eat. It's like, I'm like the kids section. Can we have an early dinner at 5, like, or 5:30? That's definitely suits me. But I'm really aware that my body is better with that. Like, it just works better if I'm not eating, and some people, I get it. It's like, it's fine for them, but for mine, it's not. So what would you say is like some of the tools that you would give out for people to actually start being in question and not judging, but asking what actually works for their body?
Body, what's required today to support my current targets?
And then how would you, what would you suggest that someone starts asking questions to look at what their targets are?
Ooh. What would I like to change?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I would add to that as well is, and I may have spoken about this in a previous podcast, if you listen to my podcast.
I do.
For years and years and years, I judged like the size and shape of my body, and I would always like, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight. Like, and I would do everything that you've mentioned. You would binge, and then you would almost like go into punishment mode with your body, and nothing ever worked. And fitness level has been pretty good my whole life. Like, I've always played sports and done different things like that. But I will say, since I've lost weight, because I've probably lost the most I've weighed is probably like 20 kilos more than what I would be now. And since I've lost weight, I noticed that the movement I can do and be is easier. Captain Obvious. But size and shape is something that I was always asking for to change. And my Pilates instructor said to me one day, what are you asking for? It was at the beginning of the year, like that New Year's thing. And I sat there with it, because she's very present when she asks you questions. And I sat there with it, and I was like, oh, strength and flexibility. And then I started to ask for, like, okay, what do I need? What action do I need to take to have that strength and flexibility, to choose that strength and flexibility? And when I started looking at that, it wasn't about the size and shape. And I noticed my size and shape started to change. It was wild when I started just looking at the strength and the flexibility. And strength work is something that I probably never took on that much. I was definitely one of those people who would, get my sweat on, be hot, red, and sweaty, and then I thought that was a good workout, rather than I love strength training now. I'm not very good at it on my own. I like a PT, but I love strength training now, and it's so different. There's such a level of presence that you have with it. So for me, that's what I keep asking for, is that strength and flexibility as well, I guess, and the joy.
What I generally say to my clients that are willing to hear something different is, what would it take not to judge my body today? So for an example, I didn't, that's a lie, sorry. My client did her measurements because, like, you're going back to the scales. I don't like to use the scales, especially if they're plain ones that don't have all the cool stuff that you've got. Yeah.
No, mine are cool ones. Cool ones, yeah.
Yeah, you got the cool ones. That just have the number. So I don't like to use that as the only tool to see what's changing. So we use measurements as well, how the clothes fit and so forth. And it was so interesting to see that the only part of the body that hadn't changed on her was the part of the body that she judged the most. And I was like, isn't that the part that you judge the most? And she can sense my energies. There's no judgment. And she's like, yeah, well, how can I change that? I'm like, well, what if you thank your body in the morning? what if you just ask every day, what would it take not to judge my body today? I said to her, I know it sounds a little bit weird right now. I'm like, but can you see like there's a correlation here with what you judge? It's kind of like staying there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you judge every day, my ass is fat, my ass is fat, my ass is fat. You don't wake up in the morning with a small ass. It's like your ass goes, oh, I'm fat, am I? Here you go. Here's more.
Yeah.
And
I
you were
should do
telling,
that.
I think this is the same story that you were telling me we're at lunch, because I was judging I don't know what you call it around the world, right? But in Australia, and I can't even explain to you why we call it this, but it's called tuck shop arms, right? So it's the skin beneath your, what's that part of your arm? It's the
Your tricep?
your triceps, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's your triceps, and when they get all baggy and saggy. In Australia, it's called tuck shop arms. I'm going to give you a little brief, try and describe that. But the tuck shop is the place at school that you go to get your lunch and your snacks. And so it's like the tuck shop ladies is what you always said had these like flabby arms. So I don't know what you call it around the world, but we call it tuck shop arms, okay? Not trying to make sense of that. But I was saying that to get rid of my tuck shop arms. And you told me that story and you went, that's the part of her body that she judged the most. And I went, all right, that's it. I'm over it. But it was cool. I was grateful you told me that story because I know that. I know that. I know it. I know it. I know it. I have had that not just in the area with my body. I've had that in business, in relationships, in sex and money and everything. If there's an area that I judge, it doesn't become less than, it becomes more. So I was like, okay, I know this tool. Now let's be this tool. So thank you for the reminder again. And really, I implore all of you, it's like, instead of waking up in the morning with this litany of judgment of your body, what if you woke up, stripped your clothes off? Funnily, weirdly enough, I've always been okay naked. You know, I may have judged the size and shape of my body, but I was like, yeah, I'll go skinny dipping. Yeah, I'll be naked. Like for some reason, being naked has never been a problem for me. So, but take your clothes off and have a look in the mirror and be grateful for your body. And then if you're not grateful for a certain area, then ask, what would it take to not be in judgment of this? And also, what would you like to change? Like, what action could you take? It doesn't have to be something that you resist, which is what I see, Krista, is you are a great invitation for that, because you're not saying what's right or wrong. You are willing to work with the bodies and look at what is actually going to work for that body and get them to have a look at it as well. I like the way, I know two clients that you have, which I'm going to mention because I know they don't care, is Sarah Watt and David Kubis. And both of them, you've empowered them to choose what works for them and their body. And that's just such a gift, Krista. Like, wow, how does it get any better than that?
It's equally a gift for me to work with them. I've spoken to them individually and expressed like how grateful I am. It's just, they have such a different energy. It's like truly what else is possible with my body. Like they're really in question, like, you know, seeing them like dive in and ask, oh yeah, I could change that, or oh, I got to change this food in the app, because they know they have the option to change the foods that I've written, because I don't work like this. And seeing the joy that they're getting out of the journey, rather than, oh, I've got to do that exercise, or oh, I got to eat that, or, you know, there's none of that. And it's so funny. You said something that took me back, and it was like, I became more in allowance for my clients when I became more in allowance for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really key piece, is being in allowance of your bodies. I love it. So is there anything else that you would like to empower the listeners with or give the listeners with?
Look, this might be completely off topic, but 7 years ago when I was diagnosed with MS, I couldn't feel my waist down for probably 50% of my feeling. And I was still in the gym the next day deadlifting. And as much as I was in victim mode then still for like a while, I still knew in my head that this was not going to change my life in the way that, you know, science or society had decided it was. I know that that lifestyle had definitely contributed to the fact that I have had not any issues since, along with body processes and bars that I've done, continue to do. But I think my biggest take home is like we are so lucky that we get to wake up every day and move. It really changed the way that I looked at my body without even realizing, because before I knew it, like it essentially almost got taken away from me. And that was like, wow, like I know training is fun for you, but holy crap, when you see other people that have gone through a different path with multiple sclerosis, you know, it affects your mobility. And I just, even to this day, like I can't express unless someone can get a sense of like when I'm saying it, like we are so fortunate to be able to move our bodies every day. I can't fathom why you wouldn't want it to be a little bit more grateful for it and move it. Like, yeah.
Move it, baby. So can I just quickly, let's look at that with the MS stuff, because you were diagnosed with MS, and do you want to give a little brief description of what MS is and what they told you and versus what you chose?
All right. So my understanding of MS, don't quote me because I never included myself in any of those groups. Not for me. And also didn't end up reading much on it. As far as I'm aware, it's... Pardon?
It's probably smart not to read, because a lot of times when you read stuff and then you go, oh, and then you start to create it.
Yeah, no, I didn't want into those groups and listen to everybody feeling sorry for themselves. That was not an option for me. Essentially, it's like the immune system attacking itself, and like wires that have holes in them and they're meant to be leaking. Don't please no one quote me, but it's essentially meant to be an illness that's degenerative and meant to get worse or progressively worse over time. And the first thing that generally goes is mobility. So that's
Right.
why you generally see people in wheelchairs or on crutches or whatever it is. It wasn't long after that I found Access bars, to be honest. And I didn't even choose it from a place of, you know, my MS. It was like, oh, this is relaxing.
Right.
And the fact that it changed so much in my head, it made life just so much more fun and ease and less stressful and just so different. Just so different.
And so now have you gone back to look at anything? Like, are they saying that you still have MS or no? Or
so I went early this year and had an MRI done. It's a yearly thing. And neurologist said that there hasn't been any extra lesions on my spine or my brain, other than like the tangible stuff, like, you know, I haven't had any attacks since the day of diagnosis. Nothing's changed in the body in that sense in MRI world. But I know that when I'm ready to actually choose it, that something different will be available for me.
I love it. Well, I think you've already chosen it, and I think something different is available for you. I think you're in it. I think you're choosing it and making that demand. And I love the way you talk about movement, because after this podcast, I have another one later. But I am going to go for a hike, and I love being in nature, and I love like moving in nature and being like listening to a class or something, and then just hearing all the birds as well and all of that. And it's the way you talk about it, it makes me even more grateful for for the possibility that I have to actually do that and be that with my body. So thank you for that. So
Thank you.
this podcast is coming out early December. So in December, we of course have Christmas and the holidays and all that sort of stuff coming up. What's your one thing that you'd like to tell everyone over that period, Christmas, etc.?
Be kind to yourself. Enjoy the foods that you want to enjoy. Ask yourself if you actually want to eat them or that you're buying into everybody else's thoughts of what they think they need to eat. And just be present with what you're eating and have fun. Just have fun with food. Should be joyful and keep moving.
That. Food should be I like that. Yeah, keep moving. I love it. Yeah. And I would say too, choose, if choice is your reality, what would you like to choose this Christmas? You know, a couple of years ago, I ended up spending Christmas on my own, and I wanted to see what it was like. Like, you know, I had a plan B, like if I was going to be like, I'm too lonely or something like that. I had the best day. My friend Diva also had Christmas Day on her own, but in the other side of the world. And we actually spoke to each other just before. I mean, I'm in Australia. It's like, I remember I woke up, I went for a run, and then I came home and I went for a swim on the beach and I read a book and I watched a movie. I just ate some fresh prawns. I made a salad. I ate the food that I wanted. And then I opened up a bottle of champagne on my own in the afternoon and just had a couple of glasses in my veranda. And it was such a good day. I'm not saying every day needs to be like every Christmas to be on my own, but I know that I had such a beautiful day on my own. And I think that's what you need to be able to choose, is to have that joy on your own, no matter what. You are not, the only thing that makes you lonely is your choice not to choose to be with you. And I think everything Krista's been talking about here too is being more with your body and having that communion that you can have and be with your body with no judgment. So what if that is what you asked for over Christmas and New Year and coming into 2025? So Krista,
And you don't have to fit in. Sorry.
You don't have to fit in. No, because you don't fit. You actually don't fit. So stop trying to fit in. Yeah, I love it. And whether you're with family, friends, or whatever, again, like I said, you don't have to fit in. Be you. Way more fun. Have you ever wanted to have all the Access classes in the same place? Or you're new to Access and would like to discover more? Check out the app at access.me. There's a class for any topic, and you literally have access to over 25 years of classes of change, choice, and possibility. Cool. So thank you, Krista, for joining me here today. You are such a gift. I think I might have to book a session with you. Might have to become one of your clients.
Get out. I'll cry again.
Well, you can try. Because you know what? The thing that comes up for me is I'm about to go away again. Like, I travel so much. If you were doing something with me and I was at home, I'd go, easy. I can do my, chicken or my vegetables here. Traveling is a bitch sometimes, because depending on what country you're in too. Like Costa Rica, it's always got these amazing, beautiful tropical fruits that I just love eating, Yeah, it's incredible. The pineapple there is like, off the chart. So I can have like a plate of pineapple for dinner.
That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. And that's in Allugar, everybody, which they also have a big Christmas event at Allugar if you're interested. I will not be there this year. I am going to be at the castle for New Year, though, if you want to have like a coolish, hopefully snowy white New Year's. I'll be at the castle. If you want to join that, you can go to Castle Borgoni. We'll have it in the link, castillodicastelborgoni.com or something, whatever it is. Okay, Krista, thank you so much for being on here. Where can people find you? How do people find you? If they're like, oh my God, I must have Krista. How do they find you?
My main base, is on Instagram. So my Instagram handle, or whatever you want to call it, is Krista_mind-to-muscle.
Mind to muscle. Okay. And we will have that in the show notes as well. So again, don't forget to subscribe to the show notes and we'll send it to you. Is that it? Instagram? If someone's not on Instagram, do you have a website or anywhere else they can find you?
The website is attached. Otherwise, they can email me on krista@mindtomuscle.com.au.
Okay, so it's mindtomuscle.com.au. Perfect. Don't forget the AU, ladies and gentlemen, because Krista is in Melbourne, Australia. But she does take international clients from anywhere in the world, and she would be glad to have a chat to you. So cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Krista. And hey, everyone, please don't forget, again, enjoy Christmas, enjoy New Year. Have way too much fun. Thanks, everyone. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram @SimoneMilasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram @Choice, Change and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.